just want to make this video as kind of an introductory video. Uh, we're going to be talking about what I would consider is probably the greatest piece of like secret knowledge, or what you could call esoteric knowledge, of anything kind of like in the ancient world, and this also has like tie-ins to like religion and that kind of thing. What I'm talking about specifically is what's known as the precession of the equinox. And I'll go into this a little bit further in a minute, but if you also want more information, I highly recommend to take a look at Manly P. Hall's interpretation of a bunch of ancient literature, including his specific two novels that I would recommend would be The Secret Teachings of All Ages and The Initiates of the Flame. These two works, I think, go really deep into kind of like what I'm trying to get across here in this video, as well as like a bunch of others. And also, I feel his interpretation is severely underrated. So he has like a lot of really good info, even though I don't think like everything he's got in there is super fantastic. But I do recommend both of those novels for sure, as well as he also has a fantastic lecture series. And then also, I'm going to link in below the video for PhD David Ulansey for his deep dive into Mithraism and how that relates to the precession of the equinox as well. He also has his website, mysterium.com, so I'll link that below as well. But basically what we're talking about is the equinox, at the vernal equinox in the spring. Every single year, it'll arrive in a constellation, one of the 12 signs of the zodiac, as the sun normally does in its year-long trip around the Earth. Now, also, the equinox every year will arrive slightly earlier than the year before. Very, very slight. Over the course of 72 years, it arrives 1 degree in the sky earlier. Over the course of 2,160 years, it changes into a new zodiac sign. If you split them evenly across the 12 zodiac signs in the circle of the sky. Then, over the course of 25,920 years, it passes through all 12 zodiac signs. And this is what's called the Platonic year. Now, supposedly, this was first discovered by Hipparchus. He's credited with the discovery of this piece of information, the precession of the equinox. And that was sometime before the foundation of the Roman Empire, shortly before, in maybe, some people have a couple of different dates. I think it's maybe 187 or 167 BC. Or it could even be just regular 87 or 67 BC. There's a couple of different people who have different ideas as to when it was. But basically, this piece of information is what I would consider the cornerstone into understanding a lot of symbolism and different constructed ways of thought for an astronomical interpretation of life. And there's also theories that as the zodiac is moved through the vernal equinox, there is also relation as to the evolution of the human species. So, what I mean specifically is that it was noted in ancient Sumer that the equinox was in the sign of Taurus, which it was at the time. And like I said, I'm going to go deep into a bunch of this other stuff earlier. So essentially, why is this so important? As Ulansey describes, the entire Mithraic cult was centered around this piece of information. Their observation of the tauroctony, which is their primary motif, is a depiction of this change in the sun in a new zodiac sign, where that might not seem like super obvious at first, but I invite you to watch his entire video. It really does go deep into it. Now, specifically what he gets at is that if there is something that is making the sun appear in a different zodiac sign over the course of thousands and thousands of years, the way that the ancients understood it is that there must be some deity, because there was a god for everything. There was some kind of manifestation of a being for every action of nature. So this slow, unseen moving of the equinox across thousands of years means that, from their perspective, the heavens themselves are moving slowly and slowly. So that would mean that there is some unseen God working in the background that is moving the entirety of the universe to change which zodiac sign the equinox arrives in. And while we might have moved away from the polytheistic idea that there must be some other god moving that around, it's actually overfolded into almost every major modern religion that we have, specifically Christianity. So what I mean is, every 2160 years, it changes into a new zodiac sign. The sign that we're currently in is the sign of Pisces. The sign of Pisces changed, the sign of the equinox changed into Pisces approximately in the year 1 AD, and that's to coincide with the birth of Jesus Christ. This is why the fish is a symbol of the Christians. It's why there's so many Christian allegories of fish. It's also why it's considered to be the current Christian age or era. Now, the equinox will be leaving Pisces in approximately 2160 AD, and that's when it'll enter the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius comes before Pisces in the zodiac signs. That's because the precession of the equinox moves backwards through the zodiac signs. And this change, moving backwards, is something that was only known by a handful of people. And it's believed that the early Christians and the church makers originally, including quite even possibly Jesus himself, were all initiated into these mystery schools which would have taught this knowledge. And that they would have then used it to further the Christian religion. Now, the sign that it was in before Pisces was Aries. And that's where you can see kind of some of the symbolism. And again, I'll go into this like a little bit deeper. Like, there's a lot of symbolism in terms of like back in the time of the Egyptians, this was the Apis bull or the apex bull, because the sign was in Taurus. And that's when they originally observed the equinox. That's why the bull is a sun deity in the ancient Egyptians. In the sign of Aries, that's where we also see a lot of symbolism in terms of like the ram or the goat, including things like a scapegoat. So, this idea of the movement of the equinox through these zodiac signs has kind of underlaid a lot of ancient religion, including tons of different pagans, polytheistic. There's even a lot of different connections that you can make that cross over from a bunch of different religions, from even Judaism, ancient Sumer's religions. Everything has to do with the stars, and even the. It's possible that the Mayans could have noted this as well. So, again, this is what I consider to be the cornerstone of secret knowledge. This is probably the most important piece that'll tie into tons and tons of other symbolisms that I believe can give a larger, greater understanding of religion as a whole if you can interpret it correctly. So again, I invite you to go check out David Ulansey's video on Mithraicism. It's probably one of the best deep dives onto an ancient motif or ancient mystery cult that I've seen ever. And then also, again, I'll recommend Manly P. Hall's 2 novels, Secret Teachings of the Ancients, as well as his Initiates of the Flame. I'll have more that dives into a bunch of this later. But essentially, this is what I'm trying to get across, is that there is types of secret knowledge out there that can make sense if interpreted correctly.